Mentioned. My name is Naveen. I lead the cloud efforts on the block side of Pure. So I want to talk to you today about Cloud Block Store. So this is a product we have in beta today. But I want to give you some ideas about why we built it and what problems we're trying to solve. And also, we would love to come back at a later date for a deeper dive on all of the technology and how it's built. But today the focus is on what it's trying to do. So I think of CloudSnap as being this data mobility for snapshots, and the way I think of Cloud Block Store is it's bringing that same mobility to volumes. So we talked a lot about volumes running on a flash array and being able to put them into the cloud, and then we talked a lot about, and there's a lot of questions about hydration. Well, the goal here is when you rehydrate or even just replicate your volumes into Cloud Block Store, you should really have expectations that you have the same experience that you did on a flash array. So your virtual machine or whatever database may have had availability and resiliency expectations of its storage on a flash array. We want to make sure we have the exact same expectations in the cloud. So there shouldn't be any surprises. Similarly for performance, we're known for having consistent performance on a flash array. We want to provide that same experience in the cloud. And then coming back to the consistent data services across the cloud and on-prem, it's the same set of APIs, same REST interface, same UI, it's still managed by Pure One. It actually feels a lot like a flash array. So to someone who's familiar with the flash array, this will look almost identical. So in terms of the use cases we are targeting, in talking to our customers, we're hearing two things quite a bit. One is they want to either move applications entirely to the cloud, or they want to replace a second DR data center and use the cloud as that sort of data center on demand. So Cloud Block Store is really built for solving those use cases in the sense that it gives you that same storage expectations of the flash array on-prem. So you're building your tier one applications using building blocks that you're familiar with on-prem, be that data protection, replication, synchronous replication, so on. All of that exists in Cloud Block Store, and in addition, you can kind of think of it as another data center. So if you're already used to thinking of a flash array in two different data centers, you can asynchronously replicate the data between them. That same experience is provided for you. And so one of the things we've shown on we have demos on our website kind of walking you through this, but for example, if you have a database running on-prem, let's say it's SQL Server, you can take those data volumes for the database, replicate them to the cloud, spin up a SQL Server instance, mount the data volume, and the same database is up and running. So that's kind of a very simple way of taking an application running on-prem to the cloud. We have a few other examples like that. In addition, we're working very closely with VMware Cloud on AWS to provide a similar integration for VMware Cloud, so that you kind of have, if you're VMware on-prem and you have VMware in the cloud, you have a very almost seamless experience there. Once you have applications in the cloud, again, coming back to, well, you want to build your applications with the same resiliency expectations that you might have had on-prem. And one of the things about the cloud is that you're told that really an availability zone is you should kind of almost think of it as a localized data center. The entire thing could lose power, for example. And so to get resiliency across those types of failures for applications that can tolerate no downtime, then we provide ActiveCluster to do synchronous replication across two availability zones. And you can build your application stacks kind of the same way as before.
Right, so the standard cluster that you're talking about, or the standard Cloud Block Store, is just using a single availability zone.
Yep.
And so you build a second one in a separate availability zone instead of replication. What was the technical limitation behind not building just a regular, the Cloud Block Store itself as being multi-AZ?
It's a great concept. We've talked about it. But I think this is the easiest place to start. And the reason, I think it comes down to the mental model of what we're trying to provide. The mental model is that we're trying to say that this Cloud Block Store within an availability zone should be up and running and available if the AZ is up and running. So in other words, it tolerates failures within the AZ. So if you lose an instance, for example, it'll tolerate it. If you lose the storage that we're using, it can tolerate some failures, just like a flash array. Mm-hmm. And so we're first going for that very almost apples to apples expectations of what the storage product is.
Okay.
Does that make sense? it turns out there are not limits.
Yeah, no, but it's like
it makes sense, but having to set up an additional instance of it and setting up replication between them is additional work and maintenance and administrative overhead. If you can just build the solution to be natively cross AZ, then life is better for the admin.
We're in violent agreement there. But
it's like the one thing that we have this discussion internally a lot, where how can we build that out in a very simple form, so we could still use ActiveCluster technology underlying to it, but for example, we can use a CloudFormation template that sets it up for you. Right. So that could be one way that we could make it very simple and abstract away all the complexity of you having to plumb it all together. So there are ways, to kind of do that, and we absolutely are going to look at.
I think on that piece, in comparison to the capabilities that AWS gives natively, S3, EFS, these kind of things are region available. EBS is not. So that kind of really easy tick box comparison, and just out the box, not having to spin up another thing and fail over in those kind of pieces.
I'm hoping I'm not going to then now invite a bunch of questions, but we do use S3 internally on this thing, so that's part of why we're these things are not impossible, but I just want to make sure it's very clear to you all that this is only in the extreme case. I don't know extreme, but this is where you want no downtime, right? So this thing is designed to be available, highly available within the AZ. So I just want to be clear, this is not the only mechanism for fault tolerance, right? There's a lot of mechanisms built in, and we will absolutely be digging deeper into that in the future, but.
Ideally, it would be great to have like a slider almost where
I
want one AZ because this is something where I can tolerate downtime. I'm really using it as DR and it's fine. Or a slider that goes up to, I want as many availability zones as there are. Yeah. Because that's how important my application is.
Mm-hmm. That's not what we'll have later this year.
Come on, I just thought of it.
On this slide, these AZs, is it assumed that they're in the same region?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So for ActiveCluster, the latencies require same region. You can absolutely do asynchronous replication cross region. You could do cloud snap to another region. Actually, that's my next build. Sorry. This does tie together with again the seamless APIs and consistency of our products. So Cloud Snap is a native feature of Cloud Block Store, just like it is Flash Array. Those portable snapshots can be restored on any Flash Array, any Cloud Block Store. You could have a Cloud Block Store and Cloud Snap to another region. I mean, you can kind of plumb things together.
And that's something that customers have looked at. When you're doing beta testing right now, that how can I get protection from a region outage? Like Naveen talked about, this is AZ protection with ActiveCluster. Like if I have an AZ outage, how can I make sure I have another AZ I can recover to? But you can do it in a region too. Absolutely.
So I'm assuming that's where you were going with that. Yeah. I'm glad you're. Okay, so this is, I think, the most compelling part of our story today, which is, if you're not already familiar with Pure Service Orchestrator, you can kind of see that Pure is getting into the orchestration game a little bit. And what it's trying to do is, for applications that are containerized in Kubernetes, Docker, we have a set of plugins so that developer-centric applications that are asking for stateful containers, they're asking for persistent volumes, our orchestrator will essentially go and look at the fleet of Pure Storage products you have, figure out the best one to go create that volume on and plumb it into the container. All of that's done transparently, and it's abstracted away from the application. So the application is just asking for a volume, and it's given to it. That same abstraction layer works with Cloud Block Store. So we've maintained, again, that consistent set of APIs. What we can show is that now an application that has a essentially YAML running on-prem, you can take that exact same application, replicate it over to Cloud Block Store, spin it up, and it's running. And so we really like this because containers we kind of view as the really portable infrastructure for your application code across cloud and on-prem. And now we're providing the consistent storage expectations underneath that. And so your application, whatever sort of HA model that you have for it, not only can it just run everywhere, but the same expectations are maintained. And so this is application mobility with Cloud Block Store. And just to make sure it should be obvious at this point, but we've taken our Purity software and we've rewritten it for AWS in the first go. This is not a simple port. what we've really maintained at the front is all the APIs and interfaces that our customers use. Internally, we've dramatically rewritten the software. From our perspective, AWS is another commodity hardware vendor. That's kind of how we think of it. There's lots of different building blocks, lots of different storage types, instances. We're trying to use them for what they're good at and integrate them in a way that provides the same experience that you would expect from a flash array, except now it's in the cloud. So that's where I keep hammering home: available, resilient, consistent performance. But then all of the instant snapshotting technologies that people love about our products and the ability to instantly restore, that's obviously there because it's the same software. We always care about cost, and so this is the model that we would be going out with, is you pay for what you use, which is a little bit different than what you might be used to in the cloud. And we maintain all of our data reduction technologies, dedupe, compression, and the ability to put all of your applications in the same array. By doing that, you don't have to reason about what do I need to provision for each application. It's an easier design. You just say, give me a volume, we kind of do the rest for you. And we can also level your costs. You don't have to provision for peak IOPS for each application. Right? We kind of let you bundle it all together, and that gives you some advantages. And with that, that rounds out our story of, at least we're trying to paint the picture of what our cloud vision is. Today we really dug in deep on CloudSnap and Cloud Block Store. And hopefully that gives you an idea of how it fits into where we're going.
Are you shipping today?
Cloud Block Store is in beta.
How do we get in on the beta?
Yeah.
So we do have the beta.
It's a public beta.
Our beta program is really oversubscribed at this point. But absolutely, on our webpage we do have a beta sign-up sheet, and we're still encouraging customers, partners, anyone who wants to try it out. Definitely, we'll work with them.
And just to level set, the beta is really trying to give an idea of how the use cases would work out. We're holding our cards a little close on what's the internals, so you might not see some of what we'll be talking about later.
Yeah, the next Cloud Field Day.
Yeah.
You'll definitely get a deep dive.
And CloudSnap is absolutely shipping.
Yes, CloudSnap.
Yes, CloudSnap is shipping today. It's available at our latest code that we shipped out a month ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.